Hey everybody, it's indie author Nick Belisi back again for our 20th episode of, no, actually I think it's our 19th, my mistake. Our 19th episode of Tuesday Night Healing. This week we're doing self-harm. We were going to do self-harm last week, but with everything that was going on with my neck and everything like that, we had to postpone it a little bit, and we did like a reverse. Normally, I'm supposed to be reporting from South Carolina, like I had said a couple weeks ago, but with this whole neck injury that's got me like out of work, I can't really do a whole lot. I'm trying to do things, and it's just turning out worse when I do it. So, I'm just trying to take it easy. We're gonna keep it light and simple tonight. I know it's like a tough subject, but I don't want to trigger anybody, but it is an important thing to talk about. And I know we've touched on it briefly and stuff like that in the past, so we're not going to keep it too long tonight. And then I do have some exciting stuff to talk to you guys about. So with me, as always, is Stormy. Stormy, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone.
So before we get into this, the topic that we're talking about tonight has to deal with a lot of serious stuff, and it could be very triggering. So if this is going to be one of those things that could be triggering for you, maybe log off and don't go through with watching it for right now. But if you find it to be helpful or anything like that, that's what we're trying to encourage. We're trying to encourage the helpfulness about talking about things and stuff. So tonight's episode is about self-harm. So what is self-harm? Self-harm is you harming yourself in order to cope, to deal with stressors, to feel pain, to control it, to whatever the case may be is why you're doing it. Now, self-harm could be a variety of things. It could be from cutting to burning to binge eating to not eating at all, to punching things or choking yourself. There's so many different things, and you know it when you see it. If you've done it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or maybe you have a loved one or something like that that's done it. When I was younger, that was the thing that I had done. Not so much anymore, you know what I mean? Obviously, grew up and found other ways to deal with problems and stuff like that. But, the first time that I self-harmed, I think I was 15 years old when it first happened. And at the time, I was dating someone, and I wound up later marrying this person. But during that time, we were dating. I was hearing all these rumors and stuff that were going around about her like cheating and stuff, and it was my first like serious relationship. You had like those little childhood romances and stupid things that go on and stuff, but this one was like my first serious one. And what wound up happening was that I was on vacation down, and my family used to go to the Outer Banks all the time. So we went down there with a bunch of friends and stuff like that, and it's a stupid story, but we got into a little bit of an argument because I had accidentally told her friend that me and the person I was with, wound up being intimate together, and she didn't want anyone to know that we were intimate because, we exchanged virginities and stuff, but she used that as an excuse to cheat on me twice with two different guys actually in a single week. And I didn't know concrete that it had happened. I had a feeling because of what I was hearing from other people and stuff, but it was like a little while after I gotten back, I was down at the local deli, and I had found out about it. I was told that, by a third party that she knew the person that it had happened with, and it did actually happen. And, I had like a little pocket knife on me at the time, just carried it, just being a kid, being stupid. And I remember I was sitting under a little bridge across from the deli, and then that was the first time that I had actually done it. It became more normalized for me because around that same time, I was watching my favorite TV show at that time was Degrassi. And if you've ever seen Degrassi, Degrassi deals with a lot of tough subjects. And one of the episodes was about when Ellie's dad, goes off to the military, and she's with her mom, and her mom's an alcoholic and stuff. So she starts hurting herself. So when I did it, I didn't understand why I was doing it. But then when I saw that, like, that's what like opened my mind up that I'm not the only person doing this. That this is a mainstream TV show that's talking about other people doing it too. So like, I felt more normalized from that. And all it did was allow me to further explore it. When I would get upset, when I would, it mostly, I would say 90% of the time when I did do it, it was because I was having some sort of a relationship problem, whether it be with someone that I was dating or somebody that I was trying to date or whatever the case may be. That's usually how it wound up. It also mostly happened when I was intoxicated. There was only a handful of times, like I want to say 5 or less, that happened when I was sober. Most of them took place when I was intoxicated. If I was drinking or something like that because I was going through a breakup or being cheated on or whatever the case may be, that's when I would find myself doing it the most. Like, it's not about, like, and it's not, I'm trying to say this without, really over divulging, but it's not about the pain. It's not so much about, like, oh, I just like to watch myself bleed, or, I like to cause myself pain. And it took me years, and like many, many years, to finally understand why I was doing it. And the reason why I found out I was doing it was a control thing. That's really what it boiled down to. It was that everything else around me, being cheated on, being lied to, all this stuff, I couldn't control that. But this was a pain I could control. I could control how badly it hurt, or how deep I went, or how many times I did it, when I wanted it to stop, when I wanted it to start. That's why that happened that way. And I did it, I want to say, from about 15 till 21, 22. I would say that's about the time that I really took a stop on it. It was just something that was going through my mind at the time. That was a way to deal with it. And, the lasting effects and stuff like that, yeah, it's kind of shameful because, when you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, or you're thinking about like entering that arena, or even with family and stuff, where I always did it was I always did it on my upper left arm. It wasn't anything particular about that spot for me other than it was hidden. But that's where I always did it. I never did it on my wrists or anything like that. Like, it was always up there. I wasn't doing it with the intention of killing myself. I was doing it with the intent to control the pain while everything else around me was falling apart. So, when I did do it and stuff like that, for that many years, you would find that family gatherings and stuff, like, you wouldn't want to take your shirt off to go swimming or around friends or anything like that. You wouldn't want to be in like anything less than pretty much a t-shirt, because the t-shirt cut off at the elbow and it was above that. And then, it became hiding it. And then when you got into relationships, you'd have to explain why you have all this extensive scarring on one side of your body. People I wasn't comfortable with and stuff, I would tell them that I got into an accident, like a quad accident or something like that. But like you could tell like that I was full of it, so they knew. But they didn't really want to, like, most of them didn't want to pry. And then when I felt comfortable enough, you know what I mean, especially in a relationship, I came out and I explained it. I explained, this is why this happened and stuff like that. And, it's tough. It's tough, especially when you're a parent. Obviously your children are going to see that and stuff, and it's not like mine hasn't. It was robbed of me to tell her why I did that and stuff like that. Somebody else decided to indulge that information to her, but I wanted to wait until she was much older so she could understand it, but unfortunately somebody else told her for me, so I had to sit down and speak to her at that point and stuff and try to put it into a way that she could understand. And she gets it. I mean, for as much as a 9-year-old can understand, like, she does get why it happened. She knows it's not appropriate. She knows it's not something that she's going to be doing, but she gets it in a sense that I wasn't well. So, but, it comes with a lot of regret. It does. Because, like I've put in the book before, and like the famous saying goes, the scars are a reminder that the past is real. And it is. It's a constant reminder that those bad things in your life are right there, and you're essentially carrying them around like a tattoo. You're wearing them on you, like a badge. I don't want to say a badge of honor, it's not, but like more like a scarlet letter. It's kind of like imprinted on you. And forevermore, obviously if you get it covered up with tattoos or something like that, but forevermore, you're essentially going to have to explain that to everybody new that comes in your life, and hope that they would understand as to why it happened. It became more mainstream, the whole emo thing and stuff like that, where people were just doing it for attention and stuff, but that's not why it was happening. It wasn't actually until I was diagnosed with borderline that I actually came to the realization as to why I was doing it in the first place. So, but, there's a couple mental illnesses that do deal with that. It's not just borderline. Bipolar, they self-harm as well sometimes. There's anxiety disorders and eating disorders, like anorexia, bulimia. They definitely self-harm as well. It's a whole broader spectrum. And, some fact that I read too is that although they say women are documented to self harm more. 35% of that 100% statistic are men. But they believe that the rate would probably be higher, but men are less likely to come forward and talk about them doing these sorts of things because of the pride thing, or to stand up and be a man, or whatever the case may be. So not all those things are documented. So it's still like an up in the air, but I believe that it's probably closer to equal. That regardless of gender and stuff like that, if you have a mental disorder or a mental illness, it could happen on either side. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. If you're going through that type of pain, that's what's happening. Is there anything you wanted to add real quick, Stormy, before I keep going?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about autism and self-harming because over half of the kids that have autism, or adults even, they self-harm. And it's kind of similar to what you said, the reason being, it's, like it's a control thing to get back that control before they go into like a meltdown, or you just gotta find other coping mechanisms to control that feelings. You don't do that, but Hannah, my daughter, she has a really hard time regulating herself when she's feeling, out of control, when she's not able to express or cope with her emotional distress, things like that, when she's, sick or she's hurting or whatever. So she bites a lot, bites herself a lot. She leaves scars, like literally. She's hit her face, she's hit her head. I mean, things like that. Like they will injure themselves pretty severely sometimes. But thankfully, we don't have as many issues with that as we used to. She's definitely, as she's gotten older, she's learned how to cope a lot better with a lot of her not being able to communicate, not being verbal, those types of things. So to me, it's just, I've never dealt with it, and hearing you talk about it and then having to deal with it with my daughter on her spectrum of it, it's just, it's a little tough to talk about.
It is, and most people don't want to bring that to light. Most people don't want to talk about this sort of thing because it's one of those behind closed doors acts that somebody's doing when they're in crisis or going through some sort of emotional pain. But if we don't talk about it and we don't spread the word and be open and honest about it, how are we ever going to help anyone that's in need? How are you ever going to be able to have that welcoming presence to let somebody know who is in a crisis to reach out, come to us, like let us help you, or go to your nearest like mental health facility, or a counselor, or a trusted loved one, or a friend, whatever the case may be that you need to find an outlet with. But there's so many other things to do instead of going all the way through like with these sort of behaviors. And I had a friend, and I've talked about it before. He used to be a close friend of mine and stuff like that. He also has BPD. He was just never diagnosed formally, but has all the signs and symptoms and enough to diagnose. And his big thing is that he used to burn himself. He used to literally take hangers and he would heat them up and stuff, and he would brand himself in different ways. I mean, he also did cut as well, but he would be more into burning, and actually his sister as well did the same thing. So it's a lot of different things that I've come across, at least with people that I've seen. I mean, I've seen people starve themselves. I've seen people just overeat and binge eat to deal with their feelings, and to the point where they're making themselves like sick because they're eating so much. That it's another form of self-harm. It doesn't always have to be showing blood or burning it. I mean, there are other things that you could do to self-harm. There's behaviors and stuff like that, or situations you could put yourself in specifically knowing that it's going to hurt you just to deal with that. You know what I mean? You could just be sitting there and just wanting to, get hurt and feel that pain and stuff like that. And you could just walk into a bar and find like the biggest guy in there and just start running off at the mouth because you want him to hit you. That in itself right there is another thing that's self-harm. That's exactly what it is. You may not be doing it to yourself, but you're causing a chain reaction which is going to bring you pain. and it falls under that as well. And it's tough. It's tough to deal with it, and you feel like you're losing your grip with reality when it's happening. And it's a sensation that you would hope that never, like, no one would have to experience. That you could use different outlets and stuff like that and take a healthier approach rather than sit there and go to that extreme. Because although it may be a temporary solution, in the long run, it does have negative effects with it. I mean, what if you go too far and then you wind up turning it into a suicide or something? Or what about the things like we talked about before, having to explain these marks and, everything else that you got going on. And that, I mean, it goes, obviously there are ways to cover that up, but if you don't cover it up, I mean, that's with you throughout life. That's something that you have to sit there and, stick with. And it's just tough. It's tough to, come to terms with that and to find different solutions. So, we always talk about, too, on here that it's a safe space and, nobody's judging or anything like that. And, we like to keep to that. And, if you're in that crisis and that's something that you've gone through or it's something that you've done, you don't have to feel ashamed about it. You can always reach out to us and stuff like that rather than actually, hurt yourself or anything like that. We can try our best to help through it. Or there's so many different avenues. The suicide hotline, your local hospital, all that stuff. These things can deal with that and they can help. They can get you, sometimes medication or something like that can change things around. Somebody that I was very close to and stuff like that was on lithium for a while to stop her from self-harming, and it helped for a little while. I mean, eventually, things happened, but she was mixing with alcohol, but, without doing so, it was putting her on the right path to get her mind like back to normal and where it's supposed to be. So, there's a lot of different things that you can do. It just depends on, whether you're going to put one foot in front of the other. Now, if you're not willing to like step up and go get professional help about the situation and everything, what you can do is that there are little techniques that you learn when, you go through this sort of thing. When you go get help, when you go to DBT or CBT or whatever the case may be, whatever suits what's going on with you. And one with the rubber band. So you get a simple rubber band and it'll be on your wrist. And then whenever you're feeling like self-harming or something like that, you can kind of just like flick the rubber band, let it hit against your skin a little bit. It causes that little bit of pain, but it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to do anything like that. But it can almost get your mind off it, almost like a fidget type of deal to cause that little bit. Another trick that I was taught is that what people could do is they could go into their freezer, they can get an ice cube, and they could squeeze it tight in their fist and hold it there until it melts. Because the coldness from it and stuff like that, it'll cause, a little bit of pain because you're holding a cold ice cube. But it's a much healthier solution as opposed to what you're normally used to doing. So you could do it that way. Another thing is there's, like we always talk about in all our stuff, emotional wellness. You could be mindful. You can sit there, you can meditate. You could do yoga. You could go for an extreme run. I've met people before that, when they're stressed out and stuff like that, just going on a run, running as fast as they can until like they're just exhausted. That just like takes all that adrenaline and pain and stuff like that out in a healthier way, as opposed to a more destructive one. So those are different things you can do. Another good thing that I always suggest is to write about what you're feeling. Sit down in your safe, quiet space or wherever you can get to where it's quiet. If you can't be home or if you're out or whatever, get somewhere where it's quiet, get a piece of paper and a pen, and sit down and just write about what you're feeling. What's going on in your head? What is it that you want to do? Why do you want to do it? And then sit there and reread it and reread it and reread it and think to yourself, is it worth it? Am I going to be able to get through this? Am I going to be okay? Like, do I need to call somebody? What's the matter? Is this something that's just going to pass soon? And then when it does finally pass, because it always does, if you just get the right avenue of support that you're looking for in that moment, when it does finally pass, you hold on to that thing that you wrote down. And you look back on it when you're in a more normal space, when you're not stressed or, going through crisis or anything. Look back on it. And you'll save a bunch of these if you go through it enough. And you'll see what's triggering it, how you dealt with it, and how you can deal with it going forward. And you'll find out that a lot of these things repeat a pattern. Like with me, it was always being cheated on or being lied to, or, relationships and stuff like that. And it created a pattern. So I got away from those types of people and those types of situations, and then, worked on myself, and things got better and better and better and better. But if you don't stop and take an inventory and find out what's going on and what's causing it, then unfortunately you're just not going to know. And you're just going to keep repeating these same self-destructive behaviors. And that's not what it's about. It's about getting healthy and doing the right thing. Because we want everybody to be healthy and do the right thing. Is there anything you wanted to add to this, Stormy?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, it's not like the topic in itself, it wasn't supposed to be like a big, long, drawn-out topic like we usually do with our regular stuff, where we go like an hour long and stuff. It really wasn't meant to be like that. It was just to be informative and to create a safe space where it's judgment-free and people can actually, hear stories and stuff about what happened, because, I wouldn't want to go into the gory details of what exactly was going on, because at that point it seems like it's promoting it, and that's not what it's meant to do. It's meant to show that it does happen and that there are ways to resolve it other than actually going through with the action of it. So, just know that there are people that care. There are people that are there for you. There are people that, want to help and, want to be a part of that. And you just have to trust and reach out to them. Sometimes your family will get it. Sometimes they don't. Mine never did. When I would reach out to them and let them know what was going on with me, they never understood why I was doing it. And some people don't want to know. Some people, it's more of a shameful thing to know about rather than, try to understand it and put an end to it. But it just depends. But you will find the right person who does want to understand it, who does want to help you, who does want to show you that there are different things in life that you can do instead of the actual act itself. There's a lot. It's just all about finding the resource and, just taking that moment. Take that pause. Don't just sit there just because you're stressed out or you're lied to or you're cheated on or whatever the case may be and just go right back into that self-destructive behavior. Because it's just going to be a never-ending cycle. And then one day it's just going to be a little too much, and that's when it's really going to be a problem. A lot of people don't realize, too, that when you're doing it at a younger age, because most of these things happen in the teenage years and stuff, when you're doing it at a younger age, especially before the age of 18, you can actually be involuntarily committed for this thing. And I wrote about that in my first book with Stella. That's exactly what happened with her. She was involuntarily committed because not only was she hurting herself and stuff, but in the struggle, she wound up assaulting an officer on accident, which got her on a 72-hour psych hold. And these things can happen. And in some cases, sure, they can get you on the medication you need and stuff, and maybe that's like your bottom that happens, and you go and you have to do it. And then, you get your honorary pair of grippy socks that everybody always likes to joke about in the mental health community. But sometimes these things are necessary. Sometimes these things are required because they can find out what's going on. Plus, you could be in a safe environment where you can't keep doing it. So if you go on there and, they put you on medication, or even if you just get the break and whatever mania that you got going on just takes a halt and stops, and you can get the help that you need. Sometimes these things happen, but you have to be careful. Unfortunately, in the mental health community, it's like walking on eggshells when you are dealing with therapists and doctors and such, because if you're overindulgent, you're going to run that risk. If you're not indulgent enough, then are you benefiting yourself in any way to get the help that you need? Probably not. So you kind of have to find that happy medium, like tiptoeing around and stuff, where you're honest, but you're not overly forthcoming. It's insane that, you can't just say what you want to, but people have to look out for you. If they believe that you're going to go harm yourself or take it too far, then obviously they have to do what's required of them by law to get you the help that you need so you don't go through with these sorts of things. So it's not like they're punishing you or judging you. It's more so that they're just trying to get you the support and the help you need. But you may not look at it that way when you're in the crisis. You may think, oh, it's just another person that's hurting me, another person that's, taking my freedom away or whatever. It's, because you're in that altered state of mind. So it may just be different. But you have to trust. You have to open up and reach out to people and just find the support. Find your support system. Surround yourself with people who care and who understand. And, don't let the people who don't understand or don't want to care bring you down and make you feel like you're unusual. It may not be what society thinks is a normal thing, but it doesn't mean that you're like poison or anything like that. You just didn't find a healthy way to cope with what you were going through. But they can be relearned. They can be retaught. You can find that. You can go out and find that healthy alternative to turn the story around, to put you in a healthier place, to make you start meeting the, societal norms. It can all be unlearned. It's just a matter of your willpower and whether you're going to go forward with doing so or not. So, like I said, we gave examples before about healthier ways to deal with it and what you should do. We gave examples of who you should reach out to, if you're in the event of a crisis or anything like that. Helpful techniques such as writing or the rubber band trick or the ice cube trick. There's a lot of different outlets. And I hope that if anybody that's watching this and stuff like that struggles with any sort of self-harm behaviors and stuff like that, maybe they just take a second. They just stop. They really think about, the price that comes along with these sort of things. And then just remembers there are other ways. There's always going to be other ways. So like I said, it wasn't going to be a long topic tonight because it wasn't to emphasize it or promote it or anything like that. It was just to bring awareness, talk about it a little bit, give some examples from my own history and stuff, and, kind of open up with that. We do have a couple things to talk about before we let it go for tonight. We like to give updates and stuff, especially about the books and everything like that. So, a little story. Last week, I went out to get something to eat at one of my local favorite restaurants. And I guess they didn't know that I was into writing and stuff like that. They didn't know about the social media stuff that I do and everything like that. So I got to talking to one of the sons of the people who own it. And, he saw the TikTok and the videos and stuff like that. And he had asked me if we could do a collaboration as a sponsorship thing. So G&S Deli here in Newton and also in Andover, we're going to get together with them and do a live stream once we pick a date where I'm going to make a pizza. It's going to be my first time actually making a pizza, but I'm going to make a pizza with them and we're going to live stream it for you guys. So, some fun stuff that we're going to do with the community. And, that's something I'm looking forward to. Another thing is that I was working with Sierra on trying to come up with a video about, what I wanted to kind of show you guys as far as a trailer or a teaser. And, through some different negotiations and stuff like that, Sierra actually came up with a video that's very impressive and stuff. And actually, when I'm done with this live stream, I'm going to upload it. So make sure you check back on my TikTok, probably about 5 minutes or so after we get off this live stream, and you'll be able to see that video. And I'm looking forward to, hearing what you guys think about it, and if it gets you excited about the next book. We're getting close. I know my health and stuff like that has been all over the place, and even right now, I had to take one of those muscle relaxers just so that way my neck could stop convulsing. Because what they figured out what it was is that it's a muscle spasm on the back of my neck, and it's yanking my spine in the wrong direction, which I guess is crushing the nerve endings or irritating them in some way, and it's making my left arm go numb, it's making my legs go numb, it's making my neck go numb. It's very strange. And when I was at work, I was just okay, wow, this isn't good. So I'm trying to get in with a physical therapist right now. They're giving me a hard time. They keep postponing my appointment and stuff, and I can't see a spine specialist until March 13th because they're all booked up. So I am working on it. I'm trying to get this fixed, but it just keeps putting me back a little bit with the book. So at least this will tie you over for now to give you some insight as far as where we're going with the story and such. And I really hope that you guys enjoy it. It's really good. Is there anything you want to add, Stormy, before we jump off?
No, I think I am good, sir.
All right. Well, I hope all of you guys have a good night. Like I said, use the resources that we talked about. If you're thinking about self-harming or anything like that, there's so many other ways to deal with it appropriately. And you could always reach out to Stormy or myself. I'd be more than happy to talk you through, any issues and stuff that you have going on with that. So I hope you guys all have a good night. This week I'm going to put up our upcoming schedule because next week is our fun one for Valentine's Day. We're going to be talking about intimacy and, as the Sims call it, woohoo and all that stuff. And then this Thursday we're going to do the reading for Chapter 12. I know there's been a little lapse with that and stuff just because all the health things that I've got going on, but we will be here Thursday to do that for you guys. So I will see you again this Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will do Chapter 12. So have a good night, guys.